Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester chats with writer and comic book legend D.G. Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
Hi, this is Erica Schultz, and you are listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Lunatics. It's me, Phil. Lilith is here, and we have another special guest, returning guest, Miss Erica Schultz. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Still alive and kicking.
We're glad to hear it.
Yes. Because again, you've become one of those writers who I love and my wallet hates because I'm like, oh, Erica Schultz is writing this. I have to check it out.
Sorry.
That's okay. No. Because this time we're here to talk Rat City #1.
Yep.
Your newest. Yeah, so my first question, you're the first creator I've talked to that's done anything, in the Spawn universe. So I always think, it's Todd McFarlane's baby. So did they come to you, or did they throw out a pitch that like an open call for like, hey, we won't need another Spawn book, or?
So Thomas Healy, who is the editor-in-chief over at Todd McFarlane Productions, came and approached me at New York Comic Con back in 2022. And he had been speaking with Joe Prado, who is an artist, but who also represents other artists. So he was chatting with Joe about getting some artists to work on some Spawn properties. And so basically, Joe had mentioned my name, I guess, when Thomas was asking about writers, and he came over and chatted with me. And, it's difficult to try and really have a conversation at conventions because it's loud, it's noisy, there's so much going on. So we ended up sort of tabling it and then saying, we're going to get on a call, after the show and everything. Then you have the holidays and, the end of the year comes and everything. So I ended up not getting able to really chat with Thomas much until early February of last year. And I sort of pitched this idea of going into the future because it's not something that they had, really sat in. And the idea of having this new Spawn sort of be in a world that's kind of cyberpunk related. And originally it was going to be 2092 because I wanted it to be like 100 years from Al. But we ended up pushing it farther a little more to 2111.
So that was their so was that your call, did you say, or was that their call, but they wanted a futuristic book?
Well, I pitched the idea of the future Spawn, and they had, and originally, in my pitch, it was, 2092 kind of thing. It was that idea of, Spawn being, 100 years, from Al. And they had said, hey, can we push it just a little further?
Yeah, they're like, that's a little too close to 2099.
Yeah, I know. And to be honest, everybody says it's Spawn 2099, and sometimes people are saying it in a derogatory manner. No. And I'm like, you know what? First of all, you obviously haven't read it. Second of all, it's not 2099. Please stop calling it that, because that's obviously Marvel. It's not Spawn Beyond.
Exactly.
You know, if you want to say like cyberpunk, you know, Blade Runner, altered carbon, these are all things that we sort of had on the mood board, for lack of a better term.
I was going to ask you that. I'm a huge fan of Altered Carbon, and I see a little bit because it's like cyberpunk, but like really, it's not the far-flung future, but it's not really the near future either.
Yeah, it's not like 10 years into the future, but it's not, you know, 200 years into the future.
It's not something that like we would be alive to see. So
yeah, exactly.
It's very speculative. Yeah.
So I think that that's kind of the fun of it, is the fact that it is
Cyberpunk's amazing, and then throw in the Spawn and nanites, and yeah, you have the world as your oyster at that point.
And there's a lot that we play with in terms of society. You know, I mean, I remember, you know, when I was in high school in the early 90s, we were thinking that we'd have flying cars by now, you know, and so you have this notion of what the future is going to hold, and then you get there and you're like, wow, this is not nearly as far along as we thought we would be. So some people are like, oh, you're 90 years into the future, why don't you have blah blah blah? I'm like, well, you know, I'm 47, and I remember being, you know, 20 and thinking that by the time I'm 47, we're going to have flying cars and teleporter machines. And as you can see, we don't even have the hoverboards from Back to the Future 2.
Don't mind me. Damn parents and their petitions.
So, I mean, so it's interesting how, you know, you have these broad ideas of what the future is going to be like. And then when you get there, I mean, I'm not going to say you're disappointed, but at the same time, it's like, expectation does not always, you know, the reality does not always meet expectation.
Well, you have to think this is a society that's at war, too, so resources get devoted to that, not necessarily the betterment of society.
Exactly.
So, but I also like, I mean, I like the futuristic take, but also it's grounded. I mean, we do have like, well, unfortunately, themes that always seem, you know, like they never change, like how we treat our troops and, you know, and
our veterans, our amputees,
I mean, I've spoken about this a lot on different podcasts. I mean, my father was a veteran of Vietnam, and my grandfathers were veterans of World War II. And
two totally different experiences.
Completely. You know, I mean, when my grandfathers came home, they literally got a parade. And when my father and other veterans of Vietnam.
To get spit on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's so sad.
I remember my dad telling me a story about how when he got back, a friend of his was getting married, and his friend said, "Don't wear your uniform to my wedding." And my father was a draftee. My father was drafted into the Army, and it was just kind of like, okay, you know. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks like, well, I know what Dad was saying in his head, because I know what Dad would have said in his head. But yeah, I mean, so the war, they call it the conflicts in the Caucasus. They don't call it World War III, which is what it really is.
Well, just like we have a war that could possibly break out into World War III, and we're kind of downplaying it. So yeah, no, totally realistic.
Yeah. So I mean, it's there's very much sort of this governmental PR, and it's not just the U.S. government, or, you know, I mean, there's this coalition. The UCN, the United Coalition of Nations, which is basically the UN, but now the UN has its own forces. And so it's, you know, on this particular team that we see on Peter's team, you have Reese, who's from Wales, you have Becker, who is from Germany, you have Garbi, who is from Algeria. He's North African and French. And you have Toro, who is Spanish. You have Sakura, who's Japanese. So you have all these people from different walks of life that are all soldiers, but all part of, and I'm putting it in air quotes, the good guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they're all brought together, and they are part of the UCN, the United Coalition of Nations, and these sort of special elite forces that are dropped in. And I mean, and think of it kind of like SEAL Team 6, you know?
That's exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but instead of it being just the United States Navy, this is something that many world leaders are sort of complicit in. So it's not just, you know, I know some people it's like, oh, you know, here's another book shitting on the U.S. government. I'm like, no, I shit on all governments.
World government, yeah.
Yeah, I shit on a lot of governments in this book, you know. So
you have an interest in political science, or you just watch a lot of news, or well, you come from a family with veterans, so do I. So it's kind of like kind of ingrained in you to like kind of be up on politics, and that kind of shapes your worldview, and you have a little bit more of a behind the scenes look than the typical civilian.
Yeah, I mean, I've had plenty of friends in the service. I have friends who've gone 20 years. I have friends that, washed out in boot camp, I had a 6-year enlistment with the Navy, but before I was actually going to ship out, because I had signed my enlistment a year before I graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so it was like the day after graduation, I was going to ship out. But in that time, they decided to do a deep dive on my medical records. And they're like, you have terrible knees and a heart murmur. So no, thank you. Aww. Mind you, that was 1998. Had it been 2002.
Yeah, a couple more years.
They would have taken any warm body. But yeah, I mean, so I had wanted to serve. I had wanted to be in the Navy, and
was your grandfather in the Navy, or?
No, everybody was in the Army. So my grandfather's.
Oh my God!
I know.
You're lucky you did it.
I know. I remember.
The football game would have been awful.
I remember sitting at the dining room table with one of my grandfathers, with the one grandfather who was still alive, and I remember telling him that I had signed my enlistment papers and that I was going to go into the Navy after I graduated, because I had wanted to go into the service after high school, and my mother said, no, you have to go to college first. So I was like, all right, fine. I will go to college first. I went to college, and then the summer after my junior year, I saw a recruiter, and I said, I have one more year, and I took all the tests, and and then I signed my papers, and then it was like, all right, we're going to get your ass in a year kind of thing. And it didn't work out. But yeah, I remember my grandfather sitting there at the table when I told him, and he was just like, okay, all right. Why is it you do this? Why is that you chose the Navy as and I was like, well, let me explain.
They have better military operational specialties and things like that. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, it was a higher pay grade. It was a higher signing bonus. And they had a program called PACE, Professors Abroad Continuing Education. So if I did my 6 years, then the Navy could pay for my master's degree, and then I could live on a destroyer and basically teach college classes to enlisted sailors, and then basically get paid.
It's the Navy's loss as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, I agree, but my knees still don't. Yeah.
That's so interesting. You're so fascinating. Like, I can just tell you have a lot of like deep, rich things going on in your.
That's the story. She needs to tell her own story. I mean, forget making up these stories. She needs to tell her own story.
No, please. Nobody wants to read my autobiography. Trust me.
No, please. Yes.
Nobody wants to read. Trust me. I'm. There's plenty of people that don't want to read my autobiography, and those who would probably come after me. There would be too many skeletons. Too many skeletons in the closet. Too much of a hellraiser when I was younger.
Fair enough.
Okay, so
are any of these people? I'm sorry. Are these people like loosely based on people that you know or anything like that, or any experiences with like?
In terms of the characters in Rat City, basically, there's a lot of what I would call emotional biographies. Mm-hmm. So, like, Peter is not based on a specific person, but Peter is based on several of my friends who have been in the service, several of them who are combat veterans and such. So he's a little bit of my friend Lloyd. He's a little bit of my friend Rick. He's a little bit of my friend Mike. And sort of just my relationships with them, my experiences with them, hearing what they've gone through and stuff, and hearing the stories from them, sort of finding a way to sort of get that in. A friend Stuart from a million years ago, another one who was also in the Army. So yeah, just sort of seeding these little stories and calls like emotional biographies or emotional autobiographies in there, where the circumstances might not be exact, but the emotions elicited from them are really there. Those are the truthful ones.
Very cool.
And
sorry, Phil. Go ahead. I have fangirling more than I thought I would. I'm sorry.
No, good. No, so I was going to ask, is he going to get a code name, or is he going to call himself Spawn? Because I was like, Is there a reason the book is named for the place and not the man?
So this is the thing. So I know that in all the press releases and everything, we're calling him a hellspawn. He's technically not a hellspawn.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the only thing you have to know about Spawn to read this book. I know people are like, I haven't read Spawn in 20 years. You don't need to. All you need to know is that in issue 300 and 301, Al Simmons detonates his necroplasmic suit. And he does it in the presence of Violator and an angel. So when the suit detonates, it causes this shockwave. And this shockwave goes across the space-time continuum. And in that shockwave is the hellspawn energy from Al Simmons, the energy from heaven, from the angel present, and the energy from hell, from the demon being present. And those three mashed up in a nice fat blender and just thrown out to the four corners of the universe and all the universes. You know, if you want to say multiverse because that's like a catch-all, you can say that. So what happens is in the story, there's this huge blackout. You see this giant sort of shockwave come across New York City, and it causes this huge blackout. And in this blackout, all that is that energy coming across. And as it comes across, it infects the nanites that are in Peter's legs, and it influences them. And he has no idea what's happening to him. He will get a name, and I will say, I'm not going to say what the name is, but I will say if you look at solicits, they've already put it in the solicits. But he will be given, he'll be given like a code name. And that'll be what he's going to be referred to in the press, what he's going to be referred to by the antagonists and such.
So back to my question. Is there a reason why you named this for the place and not the man?
Yes. So we kept going back and forth about what to call this. We would, in emails, we would call it Cyberspawn. And we went back and forth with Todd about whether or not it had to be something Spawn, because you have Gunslinger Spawn and King Spawn and, Scorched and everything. And I just basically said, I was like, look, this is an argument that you all can have. I'm just going to stand back. And when you all make the decision, you let me know. So Thomas Healy, again, the editor-in-chief, was like, well, why don't you throw out some names? So I threw out, a dozen or two names of whether it's places or Adapt or Die was another one. Because that's the mantra of their unit is Adapt or Die. So that was another one. And we just went through a whole bunch, and we were thinking like, what about Rat City? And I was like, yeah, because I think it's issue 42 is the first time that it's referred to the Bowery, the section of the Bowery that Al is living in with Bootsy and Bobby and the rest of the unhoused gentlemen, who many of whom are Vietnam veterans, actually. And so we were talking about that. We're like, oh, yeah, that could work. And it works on multiple levels because it's this idea of like, you can go anywhere around the world, but you can't get the stink of Rat City off of you, and it also speaks to the idea of the haves and the have-nots, this idea of like, if you look at Argentina, Venezuela, Brazil, you see these like favelas, which are basically just like houses, homes, it's like stacked on top of each other. And that's basically how it is in Rat City. It's these tenements. And there's actually an issue where we get into the history of the Bowery. And it took me, 6 weeks to write this issue because I was watching every documentary I could on the history of New York, every documentary on the Bowery, Peter Stuyvesant. Like I do, when I say a deep dive, I mean like to the core of the earth deep dive. And I was just pulling reference left. Like I have like 2 gigs worth of reference just for issue number 6. And basically like the idea is the Bowery is the oldest neighborhood in New York City. And that's a fact. That's not, that's not fiction for the book. And the tenements that they had in the Bowery that they would have like, you'd have like a building that was like street side, and then you would have a building behind that building that got zero ventilation, and it was just a cesspool.
Yeah,
and
it's why they have the building codes they do now, actually,
yes.
and why a lot of the, like, they were like, oh, let's just turn the office spaces into residential. You can't, because of all those restrictions that came from that. Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. And so we talk about that, like this idea of like everybody's piled on top of each other. And, when one person gets sick, everybody gets sick. And it really is just, it's the government saying, oh, here, we've given you housing. It's a shoebox, and it's, there's no ventilation and there's no sanitation, basically. I mean, it's just a shithole, let's be honest. But we got a roof over your head. Yeah, thanks.
That could also go back to like, just a recent scandal when they were surveying all the bases, and it had black
yes.
mold and sewage backups and stuff like that. Yeah, it happens.
It absolutely does. And also some of the, if you go to the affordable housing, and I put it again in air quotes, affordable housing, in New York, there are places that, like Section 8 housing, there are places that it's like, okay, you have Section 8 housing, but you have black molds. You have a hole, like you're staring up at the tenant above you because there's a giant hole in your ceiling, that kind of thing. I mean, these are all things that are legitimate and factual. We're just sort of taking the idea of that, and just bringing it, extrapolating it into the future a little more.
No, it's super rich. Like the story, the world building that you did. Well, you got 40.
Yeah,
pages,
well, I was happy
stressful?
It was 40. Yeah.
Like you're like, okay, cool. I got it. Oh, you want what? Was that your choice, or did you guys kind of like negotiate the page count on the first one?
So my first draft of issue number 1 was 20 pages, like any other Spawn issue, and it sort of started out as your, brooding on the rooftop and the rain coming down and it's all dark and the lightning flashing and everything. Like it's, started out like that. And Thomas read it and he's like, this is really good. He's like, but why don't we turn around and make 2 changes? 1, I think it should be longer. And I was like, all right. And he said, and 2, I think you should start from the beginning, because as a writer, I tend to write in the present, and then we have flashbacks to then enrich, and such. And he's like, let's try and be a little more linear, especially with this first issue. I was like, all right, why not? Let's do it. So I went back, and the whole sequence of the battle sequence was a flashback in the first issue. So that then became the opening of, them coming across the water and going into that compound and then interacting with that young man and that whole situation, and then, taking out the target.
He was a legitimate businessman, okay?
Oh no, I was talking about I was talking about Fidan, the young man, earlier. Yeah. But yes, the legitimate businessman. Yes. But I mean, you think about the history of especially the United States government in other countries, and I mean, Saddam Hussein was getting the key to the city of Detroit like in 1979 or whatever, and then 15 years later, where he's invading Kuwait and we're trying to put a bullet in his head. So this guy might have been a legitimate businessman on Tuesday, but it's Thursday. Exactly. And times change, Yeah.
So, yeah, well, that's the other thing. I mean, forget all these, powers and everything. Well, the real superpower, how does Todd keep his books at, like, $2.99? Even this 40 pages for $3.99? How does he do that?
I have no idea.
It's Canadian magic. Don't ask questions.
I don't know. It might have something to do with the exchange rate from Canada. I don't know. I am one of those, like, I will not, I won't,
maybe
blinders on,
know.
Whatever. I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to know. But I mean, I think one of the things that has made, Spawn enduring, aside from like the rich history of the character and like the world that the character lives in, is I think this idea that he acknowledges that their prices are going up and it's crazy, and that fans go to the shop can only have so much amount of money to spend. Like, I absolutely agree with that 100%. And the fact that we did, I think it was a 350. I think it was something like 50 pages, and it was like $4.99. Yeah, that's ridiculous. But it's, like Lilith said, it is Canadian magic, and I am not gonna mess with that juju. Let it be. Let it be.
We're not complaining.
Can I ask a question? Are his rates still as competitive as the big two, or
yes,
better? Okay, I know. Yeah. I've heard he treats just how Todd is Todd.
I will say this, that some companies, and honestly,
we're not asking to name names.
No, I'm not asking names. I'm not giving names. I'm just saying, like, this is not specific to any one company, because I've worked with a bunch of companies. Some companies are more corporate in the sense that they are run by business people versus by creative people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the fact that Todd, being a creative and a creator himself, and having been the work for hire route, I think that he brings a knowledge to that versus somebody who's just all business and is just looking at numbers. Do you know what I mean? On like a spreadsheet. Todd brings the experience of work for hire and having done, the Marvel grind and such. So I think that because of that influences and that helps him make his decisions. I'm very happy with the work that I've done, and I'm very happy with the way I've been treated by everybody at TMP, like between Todd and Thomas and Yvette and Shannon and Bon, like everybody has been incredibly just really cool and welcoming. And last year at New York Comic-Con, there were a bunch of people that came over because we had a big panel, and they were announcing a bunch of stuff, and it was me and Jonathan Glapian and Daniel Enriquez and Rory McConville and Liam Sharp. And we were all on this panel with, Thomas Healy and Yvette Arteaga and Shannon Bailey and everybody. And it was just like, everybody was just so chill and so cool. And a bunch of us were tabling. We had tables at New York Comic Con, and Artist Alley, Danielle and Jonathan, I know, did. I think Liam did as well, and I did. And they would just come by, like, randomly, hey, what's going on? Like, how's it going? And just shoot the shit. And it was great. It was just so relaxing and chill. And I didn't feel like I had to be like, oh, I've got this like major meeting or anything like that. No, it's just like everything was just sort of relaxed. And yes, it is a corporate thing, and yes, they run a business, but it's not the same of like the bean counter. They have a different
perspective. Yeah.
Exactly. The culture of it is very different, because everybody there has a creative background, and everybody there has this idea of like, yes, we're making a business, we're making a product that has to sell, and that's good, but we also don't have to treat everybody like they're like a cog in this whole thing. We can treat people like human beings. And that's just been like amazing. So
good to hear.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, Todd has the merchandising and everything. Did you put it in like a contract or something that you get the first action figure?
I will.
I cannot discuss contractual details. All I will say is that I will happily take a Peter Karen action figure. I will happily put it behind me.
I hope it's the 12-inch and not the 7-inch. It needs the 12-inch figure. I'm sorry, it does.
No, well, a bunch of people have already said, like, I'm putting my order in now. I'm like, if you know something that I don't know anything about anything being in, and I'm not bullshitting you. Like, I genuinely don't know if there's any merchandise in production. I made a joke and I was like, I want a piece of all the bed sheets and underoos. So I don't know if they're putting a figure in production. If they are, I wouldn't know whether it was a 7-inch, a 12-inch, a 3-inch.
I'm just manifesting.
Play set.
Don't mind me.
It's the secret. Just put it out there. Just put it all out there. Exactly. Yeah.
Or if you play your cards right, a figure and a statue.
Oh.
Who knows? I don't know. I got to finish issue number 8. I got to finish the script for number 8, and then I will be able to take a deep breath. So.
Oh wait, so that was my other question. Is this a limited series or is it an ongoing? Because I know with some of the new titles, I thought they were saying some were ongoing, some were limited.
I was told that I have to do a minimum of 30.
Oh, nice! Oh. Yes,
that's what I was. Yes. That's what I was told. We want a minimum of 30 from you, and I was like, that's a lot of work. So yeah, so. One person I haven't mentioned yet, and I was remiss in mentioning him, is Jay Carlos, the artist, yes. And Jay Ramos, who's the one of the colorists. Jay Carlos is phenomenal. Not only is he like the fastest artist I have ever worked with, in the sense that like I'm telling him to slow down. I'm like, dude, I'm supposed to be 2 scripts ahead of you, and I'm already only 1.5 scripts ahead of you. Slow down. Like I cannot type that fast. Not only that, but like when I say that this is a collaborative process, it is truly a collaborative process. I write a script, I give to Jay, Jay interprets it, and it's like he sees what I was thinking and then makes it even better. And then I'm also doing the lettering on the book. So when I get the pages back, I'm just looking and I'm like, you know what? I don't even need this dialogue because the art says it all. Or let's move this here, move that there. And it really, I mean, this book looks, I mean, I've seen the art for up to issue 5 already, and it blows me away. So I know it's going to blow other people away.
I don't know if you can speak to this, but I did notice a lot of use of like the purples, the pinks, and like the electric blues, very cyberpunk. Was that very intentional, or did that just evolve naturally?
Oh no, that was very intentional. Yeah.
Very cool, yeah.
Part of the, like I was saying before, like the mood board that we kind of had was like Fifth Element. What's the video game? Cyberpunk 2077?
Oh, Cyberpunk 2077, yeah.
Yeah. Altered Carbon, Blade Runner, and what was the other thing? A lot of Sid Mead's work, and Sid Mead was an architectural designer and art and illustrator who did a lot of the concept work for like Blade Runner and things like that. So that was kind of like our digital mood board, you know, when thinking about it, and when pulling sort of pieces of like, what is it? Are we gonna, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Let's take that and like twist it a little kind of. And Jay just really just jumped on everything and just kicked ass. I mean, he's really been kicking ass.
It's a neon noir feel. I really dig it.
Yeah. And I mean, from the beginning, we were trying to say, like, this is a Spawn book that feels like a Spawn book, but other times doesn't. Because I know that that when you say Spawn, some people are polarized by it, and they're like, I'm never reading Spawn. Okay, you don't have to read it. But there are people who have said to me, like, you're making me pick up a Spawn book. I'm like, I'm not making you do anything. But if you happen to pick up this book, I think that it's, and that was a main thing that Todd really wanted to do, is he wanted there to be a jumping on point and a gateway. So like, if all you need to know is that heaven, hell, and demon energy was thrown across the universe, and now this is the world we live in, you know, you don't have to read 350 issues of Spawn. Mm-mm. I mean, some of us have.
Oh yeah.
But you don't have to read 350 issues of Spawn. So,
is that exciting or is that nerve-wracking or?
Oh, it's like that scene in Anchorman. I'm a glass case of emotion. I honestly like I'm really excited about this. I'm excited about this book. I'm excited about the opportunities that we've been given, Jay and I. I'm excited about the story that we're telling. I'm terrified because not only is this a new entry into Spawn, but I am the first woman to ever write Spawn. And I know that, and I've already gotten the messages from people saying, you know, blah, 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 whatever, women can't write comics. Okay, fine. Whatever. Fuck
in the
off.
year of our Lord 2024?
We're still doing that?
In the year of our Lord.
Twitter. Don't actually email somebody.
Look. People are going to people.
True.
And if we've learned anything in this book, there are people who are just trash. So, I mean, so there is like a part of me that's like, that I know that I'm under a microscope, and I get it. But one of the things that I sort of think about is I always try and rise to the challenge no matter what. And I never set out to be a good woman writer. I never set out to be a good representative of female writers. I just set out to be always just a good writer. Like, if you took my name off a book, I want somebody to read it and say, I like this story. This was a well thought out story, whether or not a woman wrote it, a man wrote it, a person of color, a non-binary person, whatever. I just want people to read the story and think, I like this. I think the worst thing that you can ever get is a meh. Like, I think that I want people to either love this or hate it, because if they're just like, it's meh, then that means that I didn't fulfill what I was supposed to do, because art and creating is
should
supposed
generate
to
an emotion. Yeah,
exactly. It needs to elicit an emotion. That's the job. And if your emotion is just and you just shrug at it, then I didn't do that job well enough.
But I also, you can't please all of the people all the time.
Yeah.
You're doing something wrong.
Exactly. So I know that there are people who have said, I've never picked up a Spawn book until now. And I know there are people who've said, I've picked up every single issue of Spawn and Scorched and King Spawn and Gunslinger since the beginning of time. And this sucks. Or I picked this up. There was somebody on Instagram literally said, I had low expectations and this kicked ass. So my response was, why were your expectations low?
Well, some people feel like the whole introduction of all those books, too, feels a little cash grabby, but I think it's just interesting ideas that we need to explore. I want to grow the universe of Spawn. I want to have a multimedia franchise. I want more merch, and this is how you do it. You have to explore every corner and see what sticks.
Exactly. And, it took forever just to get Gunslinger.
Yes, which is one of my favorite books.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a great book, and Jimmy Palmiotti's now going to be writing it and everything. Ooh. And he just has such a huge, that was one of the announcements at New York Comic-Con. And he has such a huge base of writing in Westerns and sci-fi and everything. Like his run on Jonah Hex with Justin Gray, that's going to bring so much to it. But I think a lot of people just sort of want Amazing Spider-Man and they're not going to pick up anything else, or they want their Uncanny X-Men and they're not going to pick up anything else, and that's fine. I just don't want people saying that I'm a publicity stunt or anything like that, because I plan on being here. Obviously, they didn't
read Moon Knight. If they're saying that, I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't know, but yeah, I just keep writing and hope that people like it enough to pay me for it.
Did you get to pick the artist, or did they pair you, or did you thought ideas for different artists?
I knew that it was probably going to be somebody within Joe's group, because Joe Prado was part of the conversation in the beginning. At first I was like, is it going to be Joe? That'll be amazing. So I knew it was probably going to be somebody in Joe's group. And they had been talking, separate from me. They had been talking to Jay directly. And then, and they turned around and they're like, we think we found somebody who would be really good for this. And I felt kind of bad for Joe, because Jay doesn't speak very good English, and Joe speaks English, Italian, and Portuguese perfectly. Oh, wow. So it was Thomas and I would go back and forth between Italian and English with Joe, and then Joe would then translate to Portuguese for Jay, and then Jay would speak, and then that would get translated to Joe. And it was like, and I felt bad for Joe, because Joe was doing this like heavy lifting on this Zoom call and everything. Basically, like, I know like 3 words in Portuguese, and obrigado is one of them. It means thank you. And I just keep saying obrigado. And I'm probably even phrasing it wrong, because I pronounce everything with an Italian accent like I shouldn't. You should hear me speak Spanish.
Portuguese and Italian are actually pretty similar. It's just certain phrasing, the way that they spell things makes it just a little bit different. But yeah, it's basically the same basics as a romantic language.
When I was learning Spanish, and I was working with an artist named Vicente Alcazar, and I was trying to speak Spanish to him, he says, you do realize that every Spanish word that you say it with an Italian accent. I was like, sorry? That's what I grew up with, so that's why I say it that way. Sorry. So yeah, I'm sure I was speaking my terrible 3 words in Portuguese. But no, Shay is just, like I said, he is a beast. Just page is like crazy, and just everything looks really, really great. I think I maybe had like one note. I think one of the notes was like, oh, that character is kind of a throwaway character, but he looks really similar to this other character. Can you just like change him up a bit? And I think that's like the one note I've given him. And he's like, oh no, you're totally right. Yeah. Let me make this guy bald. You know, I mean, in the future, people still have hair, so some people.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that was not a knock on you, Phil.
Oh, thank you.
He's used to it.
I know.
I give him the business.
No, she always does. Erica, I thought you'd really be going off about the letterer on this book is the greatest letterer I've ever worked with. No.
I mean, what was your favorite? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, what was your favorite variant cover?
There's only 2 covers.
She's like, wow.
I'm like, there's literally there's the
black and white plain one, the blank one.
These are the 2 covers. So
I thought there was another one with the with the cape.
There's a second printing cover.
Yeah, that's the one I think I'm thinking of.
That's the one that you have as your avatar. Yeah, that is the first issue, but it's the second printing. So what's in the stores right now are these 2, and I have a couple of these rather because I can't tell my left from my right. So I have a couple of these, and I'm gonna. I haven't, I used to work at a studio and I haven't picked up a pencil to draw in like 5 years, but I'm going to try and do maybe like a quick tiny head sketch or something and do like a remark or something. Cool. Yeah.
You're going to put those when next time you go to a con or just for you?
I don't know. I might put 1 or 2. If I do one and it looks like terrible, then no one will ever see it. I will burn it in the backyard in the barbecue. If I do 1 or 2 and they look pretty decent, I might put them up on my site or take them to a con. But yeah, I mean, I'm not planning on doing anything fancy. I'm doing like quick line art ink drawing, maybe.
Maybe do like 2 or 3, put them up for auction, and then like maybe give the money to like a veterans charity or something.
That would actually be a really good idea. I'm actually writing that down. So, because I have my handy dandy notebook with me.
So the orders for this must have been good if they were already doing a second printing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when FOC, I don't know how exactly it works. I know that after FOC, so FOC is usually on a Sunday or Monday. The next day or 2 is when they sort of aggregate all the numbers. And they gave us some pretty good numbers from FOC. I was like, okay, great. And then it was a couple of weeks later, I want to say like 1 or 2 weeks later, they're like, oh, it's going to a second printing. So I don't know if that means that even after FOC, there were more orders. I don't really know how that works.
For anybody that doesn't know, that's final order cutoff.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Yes.
That's
final
okay.
order
cutoff.
Because Image goes through Lunar. Even though you see them in previews, they go through Lunar. So I really don't know how that works out. But I mean, we sold well enough to do a second printing, and I'm very excited about that. I mean, the fact that enough people bought the book just in general, I thought was really cool. Somebody posted, I don't know whether it was on Instagram or on Twitter, when I said, oh, there's a second printing coming out. Someone was like, oh, people just bought it because they were curious. I was like, you still bought it.
That's the point. It's the number 1. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
You missed it. Whoosh.
Honestly, I don't think some people think when they put the words on the screen. I don't think they're actually thinking, but whatever, I'm not going to judge too much.
I'll do it for you. No worries. That's at Lil Hellfire.
Half those people can't even look at their spelling, so yeah, there's no thought there.
I mean, they can pay for the edit button, for goodness sakes, now.
No. So in the notebook,
something. No, sorry.
In the notebook, is there a list of? Is he going to have like a bunch of futuristic gadgets, or?
I'm trying to think what I can say.
Oh,
I will say this. That Jay has designed different types of configurations.
Oh.
I can say that because I want. What is it? Is it 4 or 5? In issue 5, possibly 6, there is a different configuration. Because remember, these are nanites.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So they can change shape, and they can. I think of it as the best way to describe it as is the last Iron Man suit, where it would move and do all. Yeah. Yep. So these are nanites, so it can do stuff like that. But
were you tempted to do some quantum entanglement?
It's funny that
real sci-fi.
It's funny that you said that, because when we were first discussing with Thomas, he said something about sending Peter back in time. And I was like, well, yeah, we can send him back in time, to work with Al, or even go all the way back to Gunslinger, or, medieval or whatever. I was like, but I think we kind of want to live in this time period, in this world a little bit first. Sit in here for a bit. And then when I found out that we were, it was going to be, 30 issues, give or take, or rather minimum of 30. I was like, okay, well, there's definitely room for there, to turn around and make it where we go back or go forward or go, adjacent. Is there another timeline where we see a version of Peter that didn't lose his legs? Is there another timeline where we see a version of Al where he wasn't murdered by Jason Wynn? That kind of thing. So there's a lot of room to play with.
Yeah. I hope we don't go anywhere too soon, because I really enjoyed this world. Like I said, 40 pages was a lot, and I was just like, oh man, I got to the end and I'm like, wait, I still want more.
Yeah, there's definitely...
I noticed it was 40 pages.
We're definitely sticking around in this universe at least up until 18. Probably up until, be a little beyond that. Because there's still stories in this world that Jay and I want to tell. And we have arcs, figured out. If we do go 30, that last arc is pretty open-ended right now. So... I think that would be 24 to 30. So that one is pretty open-ended. So if we were going to say, hey, let's throw him back in time, or, move to another timeline or something, that might be that one. So, things can change. Who knows?
I could just see some big event where all the Spawn books cross over. Maybe Peter goes back in time for a month or two. Yeah.
She can't talk about it, but I totally see it. I feel it in my bones, and
I am not lying when I tell you I honestly do not know. It, like, hand to God, I honestly don't know if that's something that's in the mix. Hand to God, I do not know. I was raised a Catholic girl, and I swear to God, I don't know if that's in the mix. If it is, great. If it's not, who knows?
If there was a crossover, is there any character, like, right now from, like, say, the new you that you want to, like, specifically have your character work with?
I think that the character from No Home Here, I don't know if you've seen that book. It is Jonathan Glapion and Danielle Enriquez. I don't know how much I can say, but she's a character from way, way, way back. I want to say it was like Spawn number 5.
Oh.
We're going all the way back to Billy Kincaid.
Oh.
Yeah. She is a very interesting character, and what they're doing with that is it's really like I say, deep dive. In that, and that branches off from the Billy Kincaid story. I also like Misery, Cyan.
Yeah. Fitzgerald. Yeah.
Cyan Fitzgerald, and her exploring her powers, and how her life is changing, but not only her life, but her relationships are changing. Like, her relationship with Terry is obviously very different and such, and especially in light of Wanda's passing. So yeah, I think Misery would be a cool character to because I believe that's what Cyan is going under, is Misery now.
I think
that would be a cool character to also work with, because her abilities are supernatural, whereas Peter's abilities are tech and tech-based. So those are sort of two very different ways to look at things.
And I mean, that's another character has been there since, the day one of Spawn, pretty much. So,
yeah,
have someone to interact, with her instead of, immediately going right to Al.
So I think that would be cool too. And Gunslinger's always fun.
Oh,
so much fun.
He's just like
Jonah Hex and all that too. So I'm just like, yeah, Gunslinger was immediately up my alley.
Yeah, he's a fun character. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe instead of bringing Peter to the past, maybe we bring somebody from there to the future.
Culture time shock. Love it.
All right. Any other questions for her, Lilith, before we ask?
No, I think I fangirled myself out today.
Well,
you are lovely. Thank you.
Well, before we go, Erica, tell everyone the 5 other things I'm sure you're working on right at the moment.
Okay. So when is this going live?
Friday.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I've got Daredevil Woman Without Fear will be in stores in July. I've got Black Widow Venomous is going to be in stores in June. New issues of Rat City are coming out monthly. So next month, May 15th, I believe, is Rat City number 2. I'm going to have an issue of Darth Maul coming out in June or July. And there will be some more Marvel news coming your way in the coming weeks.
Is the Black Widow going to get a preview in the comic book day special or anything like
that?
The
free comic book day?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I honestly don't know, because what tends to happen sort of in terms of editorial is they sort of look and see what's far enough along in terms of like, what art has been done and everything. And I haven't done a lettering pass for it yet. So I want to say that the free comic book day books like have to be out the door this week.
Oh, okay.
Either this week or early next week. And the art is mostly done, but not entirely. So, and I haven't done a lettering pass. So I don't know. Maybe not. I do know that they showed at least one of the covers on Marvel.com.
Okay, cool.
They have at least one of the covers up, and Luciano Vecchio is the line artist on that, and he's phenomenal. Like, really, just the designs that he has on Natasha, he took it like he went all the way back to he has a Steranko look. That's the best way I can describe it. He has like a very Jim Steranko look. Like, think like Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of look. So yeah.
Nice.
Oh, but you did mention that Daredevil. I mean, Lilith and I were on here begging Marvel every month after, during Daredevil Gang War, we were like, give Erica more, like a monthly Elektra book, please.
Yeah. It will be a mini-series, but there will be new Elektra coming out, Daredevil Elektra coming out for 4 issues. So.
Oh, nice.
And we'll see where it goes from there. Gotta talk with your wallet, guys.
That's right. Let's get that money going. That's all we were asking all through Gang War. We're like, when is Erica going to get the right more Elektra and Daredevil?
I mean, I think she's a great character. I love her ambivalence to death. Like, she's trying not to kill, but at the same time, she's just kind of like,
they're asking for it.
Yeah,
a baby's got to do what a baby's got to do.
Exactly. So.
Very cool. We are looking so much forward to all those issues.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the enthusiasm for the books, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to, highlight stuff and like talk to your community and say, look, hey, you got to check this out. So I thank you very much for having me on.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, honestly. Taking time out of your schedule and just writing an amazing book.
Thank you.
And like I said, a lot of my friends who don't respond, they picked this up last week. So it was like, yeah, they're like, oh, what do you think? I was like, I like it. I love cyberpunk. This is like literally like, oh, finally relatable content for me.
Yeah, I hope that people who haven't thought about picking up Spawn in the past might give this a try.
It's working. I've heard a lot of people on various social media say, yeah, I mean, I picked it up and I was like, a Spawn, but it's named Rat City. See what this is about.
Awesome. Thank you.
I might be getting my 11-year-old into it. He was like, he saw my schedule. He's like, what's Rat City? So I was explaining to him about it. So I think I was like piquing
Rat City's
his
just a cool name too.
Oh yeah. I had to explain the whole Spawn history. He was like, what's Rat City? So
You have to go through 351 issues. Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't have to. I'm like, Erica's crafted this perfectly, so you don't have to read this one. Serious.
Exactly.
All right, should we get the drop, Lilith?
Yes.
All right. Erica, can you please say, this is Erica Schultz, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast?
Hi, this is Erica Schultz, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Perfect.
Thank you so much.
All right.
You're very welcome.
All right. We'll let you get back to work since you are chained to your desk doing 5 different projects.
Technically 7 right now.
Oh!
Yeah.
She can only talk about 5 right now.
I can only talk about 5, but technically 7.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to pull my hair out. I'm actually going to go finish dinner, but thank you very much. Be well, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll chat soon.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Another great interview, if I don't say so myself, Phil.
I heard the greatest interview of all time. Who did it? We did. Oh, yeah. When I talked to her before, I was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, you have to talk to her. She is, yes.
Yeah, super interesting, super talented.
Great. Like I said, she's another name on the list where I'm like, crap. Now, she has a new book out. I have to try it because,
Your guy's just like, okay. You barely have room on the sheet here anymore, Phil. But okay.
That should be the list instead of books. Be like, okay, if Erica Schultz writes anything, put it on my list.
Yeah, basically.
All right. So, but if anyone else would like to come on, any creators, and talk about,
we're really starting to be a creators podcast here.
I would have no problem
I don't
with
mind
that.
it.
I would talk to creators every week. And again, I don't care if you work for the big 2. I don't care if you work for Image. I don't care if you got a Kickstarter comic.
I don't care if you work on Archie comics.
Exactly.
Says Lilith.
Oh, true. Yes. I know. Hey, throw me some Archie names. I'm not that familiar with.
Well, Mark Waid, obviously.
Oh, well, yeah.
Obviously, that's my favorite Archie writer.
I know. We got to pick and choose your Mark Waid. He's another busy one.
Yeah, I know.
All right, so send us your thoughts. Again, if you're a creator, hit me up. Capes.
We're fun. We don't bite.
No, no. Again, all the feedback I get, everyone loves Lilith. I'm just here. All right, so. Send us your thoughts, and again, if you're a creator, hit me up, CapesandLunatics@gmail.com, or call the voicemail, 614-382-2737, that's 614-38-CAPES, and again, you can check out episodes, social media, merchandise, we have new merchandise, we have a Cash App link.
Come on, our lovely Vanna White stand-up, tell me you have it on.
Hey,
there we go.
There we go. Yeah, I've been wearing at least one of them because, yes, there's at least 3. There's 3 new logos, kids. So you have plenty of new.
Gotta collect them all.
That's right. That's right, Ray. All right, so yes, and we have a Cash App link. We have a Patreon where, again, if you think Lilith is wacky here, check out our Patreon.
We're talking WWE for April. That's not what you think.
No. Hear all of those thoughts on the rock.
And Vince McMahon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, the whole McMahon family, actually. It's pretty interesting.
The whole organization. So, yes, so find it all at tubespace.io/CapesandLunatics Podcast Network. That's tubespace.io/CapesandLunatics Podcast Network. All right, you want to plug anything, Lo?
All one word.
Ampersand. Oh, I got the puppet ready. Okay.
Find me on Facebook. I've got my phone out of quarantine, so.
Find Granny on the Facebook. All right.
Or try to find my TikTok. Good luck.
Leave heaven water. All right.
He's like, send me the link if you do.
Yes, please, kids. You don't want to share that with me. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Erica Schultz, once again, for sharing her busy time. Because, again, she's literally working on 7 things at once. All right. For another week, we have been your Capes. Episode!
Lunatics! Actually, you should just take the S off next time. I'm the only lunatic here. F in the chat for Charlie.
Oh my god, that should be every time we do an interview now. It should be like, are you a camp or are you a lunatic?
Yes, exactly.
All right, kids. Yes. Go pick up Rat City #1 by Erica Schultz. Again, got a second praying with you.
Don't call me Hellspawn.
It's the Deviant.